Hello everybody and welcome to the first Mark IV Warmachine battle report on the channel. I'm really excited to be able to bring this battle report to you guys. As you all know, Mark IV dropped just a couple days ago. I gave kind of my, I guess, almost reaction to the kind of teaser that they dropped saying Mark IV was coming. But now we've got the rules. We got the rules 2 days ago at the time of upload here. And me and Reed were like, all right, let's play a game. So he was borrowing some of mine and Dean's Menoth models. I was playing Cryx because I was super excited to hear that Banes were going to be in this update. And yeah, we just kind of were like, let's just hop into a game. So this is kind of our first look at Mark IV as well, which means we almost definitely got a few rules wrong. There were a few we even noticed partway through the video we got wrong. But hopefully it's still entertaining, and hopefully it still kind of gives a decent idea of what a Mark IV game kind of looks like in comparison to a Mark III game. I'd actually be really curious to try and run like a brawl machine of similar lists here, because this is definitely a bigger game than the brawl machine was. This was the smaller point format, the 50 point, but there was definitely more models on the board than you would see in a brawl machine game. So it's a little bit bigger of a format, not by like a crazy amount, but it feels like there was a few more. But yeah, no, overall, we got to try out the system, which was really cool. And at the end of the battle report, I left some of our rabbling in, and if you guys want to hear kind of our opinions, our back and forth after having played the game, that'll be at the end of the battle report. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So normally we'd have War Room open and we'd go over the lists one at a time, but in this case we don't exactly have access to War Room, and because of the very limited pool of models that we were given and the tight timeline, we didn't really put a crazy amount of thought into these lists. So I'm just going to briefly talk about what we're both running here, just so everyone's aware of what's on the table. For myself, I brought Goreshade with Deathwalker. I chose to have a Slayer and a Stalker for my battle group, just two tried and true models. And then everything else was just, I want all the Banes, so I brought Darragh Rath, Lord Tartarus, Bane Riders, and Bane Warriors. I don't own Bane Knights, so I chose not to bring them, and I went with the Warriors instead. And I was also just really hoping Bane Warriors were going to have something cool, because Banes have been kind of samey for a while now. So that was what I did for my army there. For my command cards, I chose Old Faithful. Having access to a D6 heal on a stick just seemed really useful. Infiltration, which is giving a unit stealth. I figured my Banes no longer have access to clouds and stuff because theme benefits aren't a thing, so I need some way to get them up the board. Put the fires out. This was partially just because I knew I was going against Menoth, something to get rid of fire. Sentry Duty for Eyeless Sight. I know Reed is a huge fan of cloud effects. I didn't know what casters he was going to have access to, but I knew if one of them had clouds he was going to bring it, so I figured Eyeless was a good thing to have. And Breakthrough, which is Unstoppable, which I figured would come in handy, and we'll see whether or not it was actually necessary, because there was a point in the game where I don't know if it would have been required for me to have used Unstoppable or not. Going into Reed's list, he just wanted to bring as many units as possible. At this point in time, we actually didn't realize that you had to bring a minimum of one Warjack. We didn't notice that part when we were reading through. So he almost didn't bring one at all, but he ended up bringing the Fire of Salvation along with Grand Exemplar Kreoss. And then the rest was just as many exemplars as he could fit. So he brought the Errants, the Knights Exemplar, and Cinerators, all of them with their attachments. And then he brought the Warder Elias, Gade, I don't know if I'm saying that right, and the Knights Exemplar Seneschal for support. For his command cards, he realized that he probably should have read Kreoss a little closer, because he brought True Inspiration, which gives tough to a unit, which was a little bit redundant seeing as Kreoss was giving everything tough anyways. He also brought Infiltration and Breakthrough, so Stealth and Unstoppable. He brought Hit and Run before realizing that it was single model, not unit, so that was a little bit of a disappointment to him. And then Careful Reconnaissance for Pathfinder, which is useful when it's useful. So yeah, that's a very brief rundown of the lists and what's in them. Like I said, not a crazy amount of thought was put into these because we had literally gotten the rules maybe 10 to 15 minutes before we started making these lists. So, yeah, enjoy the battle report. Cryx Turn 1. So I won the roll to go first here, and I pretty quickly realized that with the new movement, gun units threat absurdly long. His Errants were threading 18 inches with their guns, which was pretty crazy. I also realized they kind of nerfed Darragh Rath. Death Rod I think used to be something like 8 inches because I think it was based on his command, which is now a dead stat. So he only affects things within 5, which is why you kind of see me moving him back there. So first thing, of course, I did was Death Ride Darragh Rath, move him up, and then using that speed buff, I was able to get Bane Lord Tartarus to run up reasonably far. I'm picking out where the Stalker is going to go here. I think, yeah, I put him around that crate there just so he can kind of threaten the unit. He's got stealth, so I'm not too worried about them shooting him off the table. Now I'm going with my Banes, and they're running 11 inches here. The change to the way run works really doesn't affect them at all, being speed 5 anyways, so that was nice. And just having pretty much everything just threatening the zone as best as possible. I figured probably still the play is just to get as far forward as you can on the first turn. But of course, I'm being somewhat cautious of the warders, or not the warders, the Errants there, so I'm actually going to pop the infiltration command card here to give the Bane Warriors stealth, because I really don't want to see him shot off the board. And like I said in the list breakdown, I don't exactly have any way to protect them. So here I'm moving up the Bane Riders, and I totally did this the old school way, so I had to go back and make sure I was doing this properly. And I had this moment of like, oh, maybe I should put them in the forest. And then I realized that the wall is better than the forest. But yeah, I realized there, you see I'm measuring to make sure they're all within 2 of the middle one, because I kind of forgot that that's how that works for a moment. And then I have the Slayer run up. He's just kind of getting somewhere relevant. He's a little slower now with the new changes, but not too bad. Deathwalker's going to do the same there. And I'm just making sure Deathwalker's not in danger, because Deathwalker's usually a very useful piece. So last is Goreshade here, and all Goreshade's going to do is he's going to throw up Lamentation, and then he's going to throw up Shadowmancer just so my Vortex, or my Slayer can't be shot, neither can he. And then he's just going to charge forward, so we'll see me moving him there in a second. But yeah, nothing too fancy. Lamentation and Shadowmancer.
Menoth Turn 1. So right here I notice Jason's threatening the zone, and I can't really get anything in because stealth was procced on the unit. The Jacks have stealth because of Shadowmancer. So I decide just not to commit at all and just kind of have everything positioned for next turn and just kind of move up, since scoring is not going to start and I can kind of control that. So I'm going to mainly keep stuff out of threat, let Jason get a bit of an alpha, but not get anything too bad. Because my Cinerators are tanky, and my Knights get +2 movement, Pathfinder, and like +2 to damage or something like that when one of them dies. So they'll be quite strong on the crackback if they some of them do get taken out. So I first have the Cinerators moved. They're just really not doing nothing. They're just threading the zone. And I put some of the Knights in, just a couple in front, then I'm trying to keep the rest mostly out. Just keeping everything within 2 of the model that moved. Then I'm trying to figure out what I want to do next, so I'm going to go with the Cinerators. And they're going to be in shield wall. Since that's not declared now, they're just base to base, so they get the +2 armor. And I'm keeping 2 in the back. They have Vengeance, so they're also just a nice unit to eat some charges. And I'm going to end up putting Invaluable Resolve, which you can see me doing here. So they're going to be something like armor 21 between shield wall and the armor buff. Right now I'm just looking through the sheets, making sure I have Kreoss' spell list right. Other than that, he's going to be putting up a sail on the Warjack for +2 speed, free charges, and it might also give Pathfinder. And then he's going to be putting up, forget the name of the spell, but basically whenever a model I control is killed by a warrior model that's non-warcaster, they become knocked down. So that's a 3 costs. So I'm going to leave him, I think, on 1 or 0. Nope, 0. And then I'm just going to move the Warjack. And he's just going to run up, and if anything goes into my lines, he can move up and whack it.
Alright, so going into turn 2 here, Reed upkept Lamentation, or I upkept Lamentation. Reed played fairly passively here. I'm mixing up my words already. So I'm trying to figure out what to do here, because I've realized that charging into engage is probably not a good idea. I'm going to pick off a few of his front models, and then my stuff's just going to be clumped up and ready to die. So I figure I'll charge some things in and I'll keep some things back. So I have the Bane Riders charge in, and of course, forgetting how new movement works, I do something kind of dumb, or I have them placed like that, thinking it was all off the leader because of the way I read it the first time. So we're like, that seems wrong. We go back, we read it again. It's not quite that bad, so the first guy determines what's charging, but everything else can still be placed within 2 of the first dude. So basically I decide I'm just going to start funneling attacks into kind of the upper Cinerator there. There's another one you can't really see behind the house, so there was 2 that were in range here, but I decided to go for the one that all 3 of them can potentially hit. And I do, I think, a little bit of damage off of the first one, and then the second one finishes him off, but he's got tough, so there's my damage on it there. We established that he would be dead, and then I think Reed's about to roll tough here for him, and unfortunately, of course, he does tough, which, yeah, there's the die for it. We were going to place a knockdown, then we're like, oh, no, there's no knockdown because of Invaluable Resolve. So I make the 3rd attack with the 3rd guy, and of course he toughs again. So that was kind of a 0 turn, but also because of Sacrosanct up, I was really just going to make my guys more vulnerable, so it wasn't too bad. I failed to take out the one model I was going for, though, which was a little disappointing. So now I'm figuring out what the heck I want to do with the rest of my board. The Errants are terrifying because of the way they're going to be able to pick off my entire unit. Plus the fact that they're all dual attack, meaning even if I were to charge in, they're not only going to be able to pick off my unit, but then they get to fire shots into whatever they want to fire shots into after that. So I don't know what I moved up first there, but I'm moving Darragh Rath here, and he's just trying to get as many things in his bubble as possible. And then Goreshade's just walking right up into the middle of the zone. I decided I was going to play really forward with him and see if it worked out. So I'm throwing a Hex Blast into the unit here just because AoEs are interesting now. And I wanted to try and use one, but also because this seems like a decent place to be popping an AoE. So I throw Hex Blast out on the unit, and I end up hitting the main one. I can't remember if I had to boost it or not. But I know I did drop myself down to 0 focus here, so I was playing it really, really risky out front. At this point in time, I think I still had 3 left, because I do end up casting Shadowmancer after this. He makes tough on the first one, and then I'm looking at 9s to kill on the other 2, so I don't end up getting any of those. I didn't realize quite how high their armor was. Menoth is not a faction I've played in too much, so I don't know if that's new or if that's old, but they were something like armor 16, so that was a little disappointing. I knocked down one guy, and Reed's kind of 3 for 3 on tough rolls right now, which is pretty crazy. I have the Stalker run in. I realized post-game that I could have charged him. The only reason why I didn't here is because of Sacrosanct, but that only affects warrior models, so there was absolutely no reason not to charge him. And as you'll see next turn, hitting him was not a problem for Reed. So now I'm just having the Bane Warriors kind of move up to kind of block off some charge lanes to Goreshade. Preferably Goreshade survives this turn, and I'm making sure my important ones kind of stay towards the back there. Bane Lord Tartarus is going to move up as well, and that's pretty much my turn.
Menoth turn 2. So Vengeance was procced on my Cinerators. So right here I'm just going to do the Vengeance moves before I worry about focus. And I'm just going to have them hit the force on the left, or starting off with that. I got some of the new rulings wrong. I thought with Vengeance you could move the model, then place the model within 2 into it. So I thought I could do that with Vengeance and get the leader in for higher mat. It didn't end up mattering on my rolls. I easily hit anyways. but I'm just going to do like 2 damage here and set the horse on fire. The other one's going to hit the same one since it didn't kill, and I'm doing like 1 damage, so don't kill with a vengeance, but chip's always nice. Other than that, I'm going to figure out what I want to do here, because I definitely want to use Kreoss's feat to get the extra attack and auto-hitting. But he's also in limitation, so I gotta work out how I want to do upkeeps and use my focus stack. Because I also want to put up his spell that knocks down models. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end up dropping a sail, because I don't really want my Warjack to go that deep. And I will keep the upkeep of the +2 arm spell and Volleyball Resolve on the unit. Then I'm gonna have Kreoss activate before anything else. He's going to move out of Lamentation, feat, and then I'm going to end up casting the knockdown spell again. Camping on focus. Honestly, I probably didn't need to cast that spell. I could have just camped more to be safe, because Goreshade is there and the lines are relatively close, so I could have probably played safer. But I'm going to have the Cinerators go now. The one can move within 2, so I'm going to put him in. The one's just out. And they're just going to start making attacks against the horse. So I'm going to start with the injured one first. I end up hitting. And just remove it. And then I'm going to start hitting into the other one. And that one dies pretty much right away too. So the last one doesn't have an attack target, so that's just that unit. Then I'm going to work out what I want to do, and I'm just measuring how I want my Warjack to clear up the front line of Errants, because I really want them to go into the Slayer to mop that up. So I'm just making sure that the Jack can walk on up and hit the horse. I'm going to end up giving it Pathfinder with the new command card. And I'm just making sure this all works out once I move the Cinerators. And so proxying it and ends up working out. Once I determine that, though, I'm going to go first with the Cinerators since they need to move. And since they have dual attack, I'm going to actually charge... sorry, not the Cinerators, the Errants into the Stalker. And they're all going to get charge attack. And I'm pretty sure they're going to remove it. Auto-hitting POW 9 Weapon Masters is pretty good, especially with like 2 attacks. So, not worried about that, and then they can dual attack into the Bane Warrior unit. Just making sure everything's within 2 of the model that moved. And it looks good there, so I'm going to start rolling the damage. And I end up taking like 2 or 3 attacks. They just absolutely annihilate the armor, since Stalkers mainly rely on defense. Then I'm going to move on to my range attacks. I end up targeting the leader of the Bane unit first. Since he's giving the entire unit tough, it'd be really nice just to take him out. I end up hitting the first one, crack armor, but it'll do like 2 or 3 damage. And then I hit with the next, and also just like 1 damage, so he's on 1 box. And then I have a third one go into him, hit, and it would kill, and he doesn't tough. So tough is gone from the unit. I don't have to worry about the mini feat anymore. And now I'm just going to start picking off models. Just try to thin them out as much as possible. The majority end up hitting and cracking, so they just die, since I don't have to worry about tough rolls. I was pretty impressed with how this unit performed. Between like dual attack, they can take out the Stalker quite well with the charge, and then they can do this, which is just fantastic. They also pop mini feat, so they can't be targeted spells. Probably not relevant, but thought I may as well. Best time to use it. Then I'm going to move up the character Jack, and he's going to go into the horse, and he's just auto-hitting, and POW 18, he pretty much just auto-kills it with like 2 focus. So I also over-allocated him a little. But that's okay. Then I'm going to have the Errants go. The one's in charge of the Slayer, so everyone can get in. I'm going to get the majority to go into the Slayer, but I can't put absolutely everything into it just because the way the melee range works out. So I'm going to end up putting one into a Bane, and the other will just hang back. I will also be popping mini feet on these guys, since it's probably the best time to use it in the game. So they'll gain Divine Inspiration. I think I actually end up forgetting to roll those though. But I, again, auto-hit the Slayer since he's within 14 of Kreoss. And double Weapon Master attacks, so he's probably dead too. So I'm going to start rolling damage and roll pretty hot, do like 10 or something damage to it. I'm not too worried about cripples because like I'm auto-hitting, so it doesn't really matter if I cripple movement, unless if it survives. Which again, would be kind of shocked, and I end up removing it on like the third one, I think. So that was pretty easy. Kreoss feet also kind of shocked me. I haven't played them before, and it's just really effective. And then the other one removes the Bane Warrior. Other than that, I'm going to move up the Exemplar Warder to try to block charge lanes of Kreoss because I realized I left him a bit exposed. And I use the command card to give him stealth because I haven't used that yet this game, and I didn't see a better point to use it. Then I'm just having this Errant Seneschal, I believe it's called, move up, and he's just going to take a pot shot at the banner since it does get +1 attack, and it also has an axe. Because it's one of those that pretty nice just have a weapon, unlike mine which just had like a shield or something. So I end up hitting and killing it, which is pretty nice there.
Cryx Turn 3. Alright, so at this point, most of my army has been obliterated. The Errants did way too much work, and the Knights managed to take out my Slayer as well, which was kind of just insult to injury. My Riders are completely gone. I'm left with like 4 models on the table. My only out here is for a Goreshade assassination, which it doesn't feel great because when those get off, they're kind of bull, but you know, it's if anything, it's gotten easier now with the new infantry rules, so I'm figuring I will see if I can pull it off. So Darragh Rath goes up to give out his speed buff. This was mostly for Tartarus, but Goreshade didn't mind it either. I really just need to remove the one model and then Goreshade can charge. Now we're not sure if we had this ruling right, whether or not you can get engaged and leave engagement in the same movement, because there's no more free strikes, and I know if you start engaged it's not easy to leave, but I don't know if you can charge through a melee range. Even if it is a problem though, I had the Unstoppable, and technically I didn't even use charge movement. I was able to do my entire thing within 7 inches, as I realized later. So it ends up being legal what I try to do here. But anyways, Tartarus takes out the model that was blocking the path there, which was really important. He ended up whiffing the first attack, but he made it on the second, thankfully. I had the last Bane Warrior kind of just charge in on one of the guys up top, because I know Goreshade needs to kill both of those models up there in order for the Bane Warriors that he spawns in not to be tied up. So the one Bane Warrior that was left goes and just tries to deal as much damage as possible here. He ends up hitting, which is really nice, and he would take him out, and the tough roll does fail, but he's got this special roll where he like stays in this weird knockdown state, and if things get injured near him, he heals. So unfortunately, he wasn't quite dead, but he was knocked down, which was really all that mattered, because that meant I could summon Banes near him without being too worried about it. So now I think we might be moving on to, actually Deathwalker is going to be next here. I think Deathwalker just ends up running up to kind of, I checked to see if I could get her within range of Kreoss. Unfortunately not quite, so she's just kind of getting within range of as many things as possible to provide that defense debuff for Goreshade, which is nice to have, but I kind of forgot about it anyways and it didn't end up mattering. So I charged the Cinerator here, and we'll see in a second how that goes. I think he ends up making the first tough roll because I hit him there and I go for damage, and I'm pretty sure the first one kills, and yep, there's the tough roll. And yeah, sure enough, he does succeed. So I end up buying an attack into him, and because he's no knockdown, I actually have to roll to hit again. And I roll, I think, Snake Eyes on this, which really sucked, but I just buy again and hit him this time, and I just need to deal 1 damage, which I did pretty easily, and then he fails a tough roll for the first time all game, which felt real good. So finally that model goes down, and now it's just time to spawn in my unit here. So Goreshade pops feet, and basically all that I need to do is have one of them have a good charge lane to Kreoss, and the rest of them need to be unengaged. Which there was a little pocket there behind Goreshade where they could safely be unengaged. Oh, before I did that, I shot a Hex Blast at his caster, and that's what I was rolling there. That ends up doing 2 damage. I boosted to hit, because at this point I figured there was no point in camping focus, and there was nothing better I felt like I could do. So now I'm spawning in the unit, and as you can see, I put the 1 forward, and he is just out of reach of that lower Cinerator there. And of course the knockdown solo doesn't have a melee range, and the rest of them I just kind of shoved behind Goreshade, so then when the 1 charges, they all get repoed up there. So I completely surround Kreoss and Banes, and now here's the final sketchy part of this plan, is that they're looking at 8s to hit. So in theory, I could miss a few of these with a few rolls on damage, and this goes pretty bad. So I start rolling away in a minute here, and we're going to go into first attack roll here, and unfortunately it misses, but the second one lands, which feels really good. I do a pretty ridiculous amount of damage off of this, and of course he spends the focus to negate some of it, so he ends up taking like 8 damage or something like that still. And then the next one hits and does kill him. He goes for a tough roll and fails it, so that is game. I don't feel good about, but it was my only out there, so.
Yeah. Honestly, he did not need to be that far up.
You're a caster?
No.
Probably not.
And I also didn't need to cast Synchros. I think that was being greedy.
Fair.
I killed way more than I needed to.
That's fair. I don't like units anymore. Like, don't get me wrong, they're better in every way, shape, or form.
Units are broken.
I don't like units anymore.
I stick with my original statement. Units are good.
Units are so busted now.
Units are so fucking
like, okay, they're busted, but they're doing things that they weren't able to do before. Like, the Banes felt really bad this game. Partially because of the stuff you had in play, but also partially because I couldn't spread them out. Like, yeah, your dual attack unit felt fantastic.
Yeah, those were good.
The Bane Riders felt very weak.
Oh, the Cav, yeah.
The Cav felt very, very weak. Not, like, they still got to spread out a little bit, but losing the ability to spread models really hurts. Making it harder to tie up models. Like, what I did there, because free strikes aren't a thing anymore,
yeah.
That's something that, I don't know, I hope I'm reading that wrong and you can't enter and leave in the same movement. I know if you start inside engaged, you can't move out of it very easily, but
yeah.
Well, I just realized I way undermoved Goreshade. He could have technically walked that distance. So actually I could have put the unstoppable thing, and even if I was wrong about that ruling, that would have still been legal.
Unstoppable.
Meaning, let's say move, not charge, but I just realized I only moved him 7, which was his walking range.
Oh, you mean unstoppable on him?
Yeah, I could have put unstoppable on himself. What I was going to do, if he was still in, was put unstoppable on the Banes, and then just have one of them not be able to charge, or like the unit wouldn't be able to charge. I don't know how that works, actually. I think it would have been the one guy doesn't get to. The one guy doesn't even get to attack you.
What does Ghostly say in this edition, anyways?
Ghostly is... Oh yeah, does Ghostly affect free strikes? I didn't even think about that.
Probably.
No.
Okay.
It's just the terrain thing now. Okay. And models.
It can go through models now?
Uh-huh.
I did not know that.
So it can go through models as well as obstructions and terrain now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. That would have made that a lot easier. I didn't have to do nearly that much
That would have also
finagling.
forced me to respect that.
Yes, that's true. Not that it ended up mattering, because I played as if I didn't have it.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I think partially that was just a bad matchup because Banes still feel really bad. Goreshade feels good, but Banes feel bad.
Yep.
But also, units are absurdly stupid now. Like, I...
Remember when we were talking about it, you're like, I think units are weaker. No.
Well, okay, they're weaker in some aspects.
In some aspects,
Like,
I
the
agree.
Cab unit felt a lot weaker than they normally do.
Yes.
The Banes, honestly, felt a lot weaker than they normally do. Although that jank that I pulled off at the end wouldn't have been possible without the new rules.
Yeah.
Well, actually, yeah, probably still would have been possible with the new rules.
You would have gotten less models in.
But with Ghostly doing the whole ignoring free strike thing, I actually could have put them... I wouldn't have had to worry about your melee threat. I could have put all of my guys out front there and charged them through anyways.
You mean with old rules?
With old Ghostly.
Or
'Cause
do you
old
mean, or do
Ghostly
you mean
meant-
like all old rules, or just
Yeah, all old rules.
all old rules? You would have eaten free strikes on Goreshade and all that.
Goreshade would have eaten a single free strike. That would not have killed him.
No, but like.
And I had focus to spare at the end. Goreshade would have eaten a free strike. Deathwalker would have eaten a free strike, but that didn't matter because I kind of forgot about her -2 over there anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably.
So yeah, no, it wouldn't have affected that turn at all. Like, that turn played pretty much the same way it would have in old rules, but that's just because Goreshade's feat is stupid and always has been, especially in low point games.
Yeah, well, like I think it's okay in high point games. In high point games, it's not.
In
bad.
high point, it's better. It's still pretty stupid for the potential to pull off things like that. But
I
like,
you're less pressured on assassination, to be honest.
I don't know. My big concern, like, you didn't have to deal with this because you had a ranged unit.
Yeah.
My big concern is the fact that alpha strikes don't kill, like, unit alpha strikes into other units don't kill units anymore.
It's actually not as bad as I thought, because I realized when moving the models that I'm like, oh, you can put 2 inches and put it behind an enemy model.
You
and
can.
That's like, that gets you into them actually.
Yeah.
You're not gonna alpha strike an entire unit off the board, but that was never really the case most of the time.
No, usually you get like 80% and call it there. Which, like, might still be possible, but you're not getting the charge benefit on most of them anymore.
I think that's fine. You don't need charge benefit against single wounds.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm fine with it. I actually kind of like the new movement beyond. I don't like the dumb assassination potential.
I mean, yeah, the dumb assassination potential is really bad. The difficulty gumming up units now is pretty bad. Like, before, in that situation with your exemplars there, like, being able to get all of them in would not have been possible before. You would have definitely had to split targets. Which, like, sure, you definitely didn't need all of them in, but in a situation where you did, that feels bad.
Yeah, I mean, like with them, I'm like, oh, I gotta put them in the Stalker. Dual attack doesn't matter? Okay.
Yeah, like dual attack, you then just got to obliterate. Well, honestly, even if the Stalker wasn't there, though, why would you charge them in? You kill that range there easily. Like, you killed the entire unit, save one guy at range.
Oh no, I'm saying, no, I like dual attack because I charge the Stalker, then I can do that. I'm not saying I charge the unit.
But that's what I mean. Like, even if the Stalker wasn't there, they would have obliterated my unit.
Oh yeah.
Ranged units, I think, got really buffed in this update.
I think these are really dumb with dual attack.
I mean, yeah, dual attack ranged units are even
Well,
worse.
because like what they could do is like they could run, kill the front few, dual attack into the back line, and these guys can easily wipe out a single wound infantry unit, which is astounding.
And they're also, like, they're not an expensive unit, are they? How many points are those dudes?
8 or 9.
Okay, so that's more than the Bane Warriors, as they definitely should be. But
Yeah, I was. Part of the reason I got Assassinated too is because I did not realize the output of Kreoss, because this is my first, or the Errants for that matter, because this is my first time playing this faction.
yeah, I mean, that didn't help. You were
I was like shuffling through all the stuff, and I'm like, oh, I guess I didn't need to put up Sacrosanct because I didn't think my army would just wipe out like the majority of your stuff.
Yeah, there was not much reason behind doing that.
Like, I also didn't need them like to actually get your Slayer in range because I'm like, oh, these guys give themselves Divine Inspiration. I'm probably not missing most of these Mat 7 attacks anyways.
True.
Which is why-
I mean, Slayers do rely somewhat on defense. They're defense 13, so you'd actually have missed a couple, but like...
It's Mat 7 with Divine Inspiration, so discard the lowest. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, you were fine.
It was like,
Yeah.
man, that feat though.
I do like the command cards. I think command cards are unique and cool. Those are fine.
I have no problem with
I don't love them, but I don't hate them.
I have no problem with them.
Yeah, like they're a neutral change for me.
I thought they were going to be more like MCP, and that's what I was worried. So I thought they were going to be too.
The MCP ones are pretty heavy effects compared to these, which are pretty light.
These are just like,
yeah,
we're going to make bad matchups better, and that's fine. Like,
no, that's good, and none of them are threat extenders, which I think is really good.
Yeah, that's what I was concerned about. I'm like, there better not be a threat extender one in here.
Yeah, none of them are threat extenders.
Like Pathfinder's cool. That's no problem.
I mean, we both only ended up using one or two of them each. I almost used breakthrough. Maybe I should have used breakthrough.
I would have used more if I didn't look at mine and go like, man, I don't know this faction. I picked abilities I already had.
Yeah, picking the tough one was pretty.
I'm like, well, there's
picking the stealth one. I mean, you didn't know going into it that I was going to be so gun light, but that one was also pretty useless.
The repo one was bad because I thought it was unit.
Yeah,
I did not care about repoing.
I think is honestly just kind of meh in general. Like, it's not awful, but it's on the lower side.
I didn't care about repoing most of my stuff, and I'm like, okay. There's another one that was like, I'm like, man, why did I pick this? It was maybe the Pathfinder one, because I didn't realize how stupid units, like, what I realized with the charges, I'm like, man, one of these have to be outside of rough terrain. They don't get the penalty.
Exactly.
I'm like,
we should confirm that that's how.
We might want to confirm it because I could have totally activated Pathfinder on that one unit.
Yeah, like I don't think
these guys really naturally had Pathfinder, so.
But actually, I do feel like I remember something about how Pathfinder, or not Pathfinder, rough terrain. If it affects one model, affects the whole unit. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Don't quote me.
I mean, I'd be totally fine with that because I had the command card for it.
Yeah.
Which means I would have actually used it.
Let's see.
Okay, these Menoth shells kind of clogged, so I'm going to put his Menoth stuff over here.
Fair enough.
I don't want to potentially break any of his stuff.
Here we go. They have rules for stairs and stuff now, which is cool, but there's a typo. They don't actually say how much movement it takes. It has an inch symbol, but it's blank.
Oh my god.
So, a number of inches to go up and down stairs and ladders and elevators, which I think is funny.
Yep.
Rubble. Rough terrain is page 53. I passed it. If a model begins in or would enter rough terrain one or more times at any point while advancing, reduce the distance the model moves by 2 inches to a minimum of 1. So no, what you did was perfectly fine. Rough terrain is like Pathfinder as an ability has been heavily nerfed because rough terrain is not that good.
That's kind of fine.
I don't
Pathfinder
hate that change.
Too used.
Pathfinder was one of the most common abilities on cards, and like I don't hate that.
Also,
that
makes
also
flight less relevant. Slightly.
Yeah, though, like,
No,
I don't think that's as big of a nerf to flight. It is
flight's already like got the whole ignore.
Also, somewhat a nerf to Ghostly, similar way to flight. Now, flight and Ghostly are almost identical now.
Move through models.
Yeah,
Yeah.
flight and Ghostly are identical now. Interesting.
Actually, maybe we gotta read the new flight rules.
Yeah, maybe flight's different now. Who knows? But yeah, so. Flight and Ghostly are kind of nerfed, but not super heavily by that. Rough terrain in general has just been nerfed. Like, whether or not he'll make it remains to be seen, but if Wormwood comes into Mark IV, Wormwood's going to be pretty nerfed by that because not having his force be quite as debilitating.
I mean,
it's not going to be a crazy hard nerf, but it's still a nerf.
yeah, I mean, one of the main things is just the line of sight, so
yeah,
kind of fine.
Like he's still going to have the line of sight thing, although the eyeless sight through. Actually, eyeless sight doesn't let you see through 3 inches of force anymore, does it?
It's never been able to do that.
Yeah, before your time. Before your time, it used to. Back in the old Mark II days.
That's broken.
Eyeless sight was really good back in Mark II.
I'll say though, first thoughts on the new edition, overall, I think I like it more than Mark III.
Really?
I'm leaning towards it.
The unit thing is a problem for me.
I thought I would dislike it more, and it makes it easier for me to actually move the units, and I think it's kind of fun still, so I'm like, it did it, like with the AoEs and stuff, like it just means less finicky movements, and I kind of didn't like that anyways.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm definitely on the Mark III boat still.
I will say I really don't like the free strike ruling. I think if you move through an arc, you should have to give up combat action if you're doing that.
See, that's another thing that I don't necessarily like, because I liked the risk reward of I'm going to eat this free strike and see what happens.
Yeah, I can understand getting rid of that though.
Yeah, like, I don't like that they removed free strikes, and I don't like that they changed the way unit movement works, mainly because it just makes positioning so much less important for, like, those sorts of situations.
It makes it easier to predict, though.
Trying to block off models is a lot harder to do now.
Yeah.
And that's a little annoying, because to me that's, like, a lot of what the strategy in Warmachine is trying to keep open charge lanes and stuff.
Well, I think it's more about models actually clogging the way now.
Yeah, like,
It's fine.
but that's just more bodies on the board, which is not good.
I'm probably soon just going to run a pure infantry army because that's
Yeah, I mean, I could see going into. That's the other thing is now that, especially with the way infantry charges work now,
This is why
running
they gave Warjacks
infantry
dual attack.
heavy seems really good.
I see why they gave most Warjacks dual attack now.
Yeah, like I don't think it'll make them busted at all. I think they're still gonna have problems.
Because dual attacks, you can do stuff like I did with that unit with Warjack.
Yeah, but not to the same extent because you only have so many shots.
Sure, but that's still pretty good.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I think Warjacks in general are kind of hard nerfed by this, weirdly, because of how much better units just got.
I mean, to be fair too, you didn't have that many sprays or AoEs, and the AoE you did have, I had high armor units. So,
Yeah.
like, I would say we'll see. Like, maybe the sprays and AoE still punish them hard enough with the new rules.
See, that's the thing is I feel like AoE's never really punished them that hard.
This one, they might punish them a bit harder.
AoEs, if anything, did get buffed.
Sprays are going to punish them
I think.
probably less, I think.
Sprays are. I still don't think it's necessarily less. I think sprays went kind of for a side grade there.
I just remember you still managed to get, like, spray, like, 5 models sometimes.
That rarely happens, and that only really happens when you line them up. Like, the only case I can think of that is, I think I was playing Cryx, and I got, like, a sideways line because you would charge your front line in, so you left a sideways line for me.
That happens a lot, though.
Yeah, but, like, at that point, your unit's already done its job anyways, so it's not that bad.
It still feels bad to, like, just lose them like that.
But, yeah, like, I think there's a bit of a side grade there because I think it's going to be... Units are going to be more clumped now because they have to be more clumped now. But at the same time, the spray AoE has been decreased.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm going to solidly state that as a side grade. We'll see how it actually shakes out when we get to actually use models with sprays, but...
I mean, I feel like 2 inches is still, like, something to play with, to play against sprays.
Yeah, I think getting 3 models will be... 2 to 3 models will be pretty easy to do still.
I'm a bit iffy on that, because if you... I'm wondering if, like, for example, like, if I use these. If I do...
Yeah, like, if you're specifically trying to tech out against sprays, but I think that's not the situation where I was getting much in the first place.
How do I do this?
Like, yeah, 2 is going to be really easy. You're not going to avoid 2.
No. I think there's a way to do it where, like, it's almost always going to just be 2.
Yeah, like
maybe 3 if you get a
the thing is,
diagonal.
once you do your main alphas and stuff like that, I'm getting 3 or 4 anyways. Like, once you've done your hard alphas...
Well, that's a bit of the thing now, too, is you don't have to do much of a line anymore because it's within 2, so you can kind of curve a little.
Yeah, that's going to get 3.
3, but, like, I don't know if it's getting 4.
Yeah, like, 4 is going to be a rare occurrence, but honestly,
like,
4
when I
didn't
used to
happen
do those
very
alphas,
often
I would lose, like, 5 or 6.
But you're also
so.
killing less models on those alphas now, right? So, like, it's you're losing output for that.
Against units, yeah. Against jacks, they still perform better, I think.
Yeah, they're definitely buffed when they go into jacks, which is why I kind of consider it a nerf to jacks as much as a buff to units. A nerf to, like, individual models in general, I will say it's almost a buff to, like, solos, because do you really want to dedicate your entire unit towards picking off this solo? Because they all have to charge within 2 of that leader. So if they're all going to be within 2 of that leader, how many other models are they realistically getting from the solo? Depends on the situation, but...
So that's where I'm going to bring up the new AoE rules. Where, like, the squishy solos, you can just purposely aim the AoE, don't care if you hit, boost the blast.
Most solos can survive blasts.
Potentially. I know quite a few that have, like, 13 or 14 armor and then 5 boxes.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of ones that rely on stealth as a
But
protection.
even then, like, boosted on the 5 boxes, you're looking at, what, POW 8 average, I'd say, for blast damage?
Nowadays, yeah.
So that's dice off 6. Boosted's not killing a 5-1 model there.
Dice off 6. What are we saying?
You said armor 14.
Oh, yeah, some of those are 14, but some are also like armor 12.
Yeah, those are the
Yeah, like, I'm
ones
like,
that are
armor
kind
14
of
is probably the average.
Those ones that are armor 12, though, are also usually low defense, too. Like, that's like your mechanics and stuff like that.
Oh,
in
I'm thinking armor 12 is
so.
usually like the high defense stealth models. I think those solos.
Even armor 12, though, so your dice off 4,
boosting,
3 dice.
6.5.
Okay, yeah, on average you kill. On average you kill 3 dice there.
And if you have like the POW 10 blast, if that's still a thing,
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, dice off 4, that's still on average killing.
Yeah, I mean, those are the guns you want to be putting into actual infantry, though, at that point.
Potentially, I mean, if you take out a good solo, that's just good. So.
That's fair.
All right, and there you have it. The first Warmachine battle report on the channel in Mark IV. I left a lot of our thoughts at the end there. A little bit of a conversation between myself and Reed. As you can kind of see from there, and we continued that conversation for a while. Reed is very much on the Pro Mark IV side. He's a big fan of pretty much all of the changes they made. Myself, I'm still a little iffy on it. I'm personally really disappointed with the movement changes, but I can understand that they've streamlined the game, they've made it faster, and those are generally speaking good things. So I'll be salty, but I'll sit in my corner of salt and let everyone else be happy, because it seems like for the most part the community is taking these new rules pretty well. So yeah, it's definitely a big shakeup though. Like these are some major rules that they've changed that are very different from the way they did things when they went from Mark II to Mark III, where really the overall rulebook changes from Mark II to Mark III weren't that big. It was just the rebalancing of the game that was big there. At least that's what it felt like for me, because I was only kind of just getting into the game when that happened. But yeah, the update overall, like personally for me, if you've watched any of the videos on the channel, the way that I've played infantry in the past, I usually stick to 5-man and 3-man units anyways. So I actually really like that they've shortened down the sizes, but just the way that I move the models around the table, the situations that I get into with those models, I feel like a lot of those situations don't really exist anymore. One of the things I was kind of pointing out at the end there was that picking off solos now is kind of not something you want your infantry units to be doing, because everything needs to be going in the direction of that solo now, which can be a little awkward. And it's just kind of like, I think that's my big issue with the movement in general, is that you lose a lot of the versatility of units, because they all have to kind of go in the same general direction now. Which, as Reed pointed out in our later discussion, it makes them feel more like a unit. So, I mean, from that perspective, they're better. Their feel of them would be closer to what you'd be expecting if you were coming from, say, 40k or Star Wars Legion or any other type of wargame, really, because most wargame units move together. So I can definitely understand how it's more similar to those, but I don't know. For me personally, it's just one of those things that was always very unique about Warmachine that unfortunately has kind of been lost now with this update. But we'll see how it shakes out. Obviously, rules aren't even finalized. This is beta rules, but this was also just one game using beta models, and we'll see how it goes, right? There's going to be lots of changes to this, I'm sure, as time moves on. What we get in September, October will not be the exact same. I'm sure there will be a lot of minor tweaks here and there, and yeah, we'll just kind of see how it shakes out. But I'm really glad I was able to get this battle report up right away. I think by the time this goes live, the rules drop was just a couple days ago, and so I'm pretty happy about that, and I hope you guys enjoyed getting to see kind of a sneak preview at what the games are actually going to look like if you haven't had a chance to play any Mark IV games using the Cryx and Menoth models. So yeah, no, I think overall, like, I like a lot of the changes. I like the command cards a lot.
I like that they're adding elevation back in. I like some of the other rule simplifications. I think a lot of the changes overall are pretty good. But we'll see where it ends up, and obviously I'll have to get some more games in before I can really have a strong opinion on it. But anyways, I think that's going to do it for this battle report. I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, peace.